welcome to my webinar, Exciting Writing. My name is Rebecca Underwood, and thank you for joining me today. I hope to share lots of ideas to inspire children's writing. So exactly how do we do that? There's many ideas out there. But for me, I think children need that stimulus to write, that real reason to be an author, a context, a passion, and they need also a real hook at the beginning of each context and unit of work, and also preferably a real audience. Children need to know the subject or have a really good understanding of what it is they are writing about. That needs to be internalized, and talk is key here. Children need to feel confident about what is expected of them along the way. It's all part of a long process and journey. And children need encouragement to write with passion and flair, and sometimes let writing flow and not to be corrected. Those risk-taking times are really key. And children need to not be afraid of making mistakes at times, but just enjoy that process of creating a page of words that stands out to any reader and makes everyone rejoice. So for me, recently, there's been a shift in focus. It always used to be about the product and the outcome of a piece of writing. But I see now that the whole process is a journey for a writer and an author. All about the writer and this process that makes someone an effective author. Very subjective, I know, because what is a perfect author or even a perfect piece of writing? I aim to explore how we can create authentic and engaging writing experiences with children, whilst also hopefully simultaneously embedding those key strategies in order that they develop their accuracy along the way through each stage. We need to place great emphasis on modeling. This is key in our daily practice with children. This gives them time to practice and consolidate themselves and improve their writing at every possible opportunity. I'm no writer at all, but I'd like to think that I do inspire children to write and that they become the authors of their and my teacher dreams. Now, you have to say it to know what to write. Talking is key, and the links between speaking and RSE and reading are integral at this point. Talking tins and prompts around the room can be great and can help children. But these ideas need to be embedded and internalized. And while they can support, it's best that we have that practice and that practice becomes perfect. This will lead to independence. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm stood at the front sometimes, I feel like I'm on stage. I think aloud, especially when I'm modeling writing. I talk through the process myself and act it out, really. I ask questions to the children, and they are my support network. I become the learner and they support me. And I go over the top, as you can imagine. So I ask them, oh, I really wish I knew how to spell a word. Where can I look in the room? And they become my voice. Or I might say, oh, I really wish I could use another word for big here. I've already used big. I wonder if anyone can help me. And soon they start asking these questions themselves. I know it sounds cheesy, but it actually works, and I've seen it happen. The children soon then to develop their independence, and they rely on you less for support. Of course, you use the room as well for spellings and working rule examples, but talking it through is key. It all comes back to me being a learner alongside them and making learning and being an author a team effort. Now, here is my menu or my ingredients for the perfect writing lesson. Now, I'm not saying I've nailed it. I don't ever think I have nailed it. But in each lesson, you'll see elements of these things in some capacity. Are some genres easier than others? Yes, probably. Instruction writing is quite a good one to start on with the less reluctant readers. Now, here are my ingredients or my menu for the perfect writing lesson. And I've never said I've nailed it myself, but lots of these ideas you'll find in some of my lessons. Motivate, encourage, inspire at every opportunity. Now, where do we start? The starters. Yes, the context, that link to the previous learning and the sharing of the LO is integral and key. Now, hopefully we'll all be on the same LO within some capacity, but differentiation sometimes means that we won't. And some children might be working on a table at the back. That's okay because that's where they're at. Linking to quality text is also key. Texts that you've used before, so you're really aware of them and really enjoy them as well alongside the children. Also sharing your why. Why are we doing this? In order to get better at something? In order to cover a genre? Tell them, even share the national curriculum with them. Refer to resources around the room, even if it is repetitive. This way, they'll get to go and use them themselves with greater independence. And don't forget your LSAs and the adults in your room. They are integral and you all need to be going on stage. The main course of the lesson links in with your hook or your wow, that way to motivate success. Then you want to start modeling. You want to show them exactly what it takes to start a piece of writing. And then you want them to have a little go themselves, allowing them about 15 minutes to sustain their writing. Along the way, you'll again refer to the resources and the success criteria if you have some, and a working what a good one looks like. You might have some sentence stems for the less able, or you might be working with the more able that day. Again, you prompt along the way, you scaffold at every opportunity. This comes naturally to us. We're professionals, remember? Don't forget to mention that LO again. Always come back to why you are doing this. Along the way, you might pause the lesson and you might ask the children to ask questions. I love that when they ask each other questions. Then you might come on to more writing, and then a bit of peer sharing, what you like about each other's. Back to the LO, have we covered what we did? And also along the way, that praise and that motivation to succeed. Along the way, you might chuck in some sides and a sound effect or two to keep the momentum going in the lesson, a secret challenge for the more able or the less able, a mark my words section when you show them a sentence and they roll their eyes and suggest that you could do it better. I love those moments. You might add a recording of I don't know, an evil queen talking to add more information to the lesson. You might praise team effort and concentrate and focus on that collaborative teamwork. Alongside everything, you'll motivate each other, not just the children doing it, but you doing it and the adults in the room too. And then for pudding, the children might become the facilitators. You might give them a lanyard. I'll come on to that later. You might review the lesson and say how much you've come on, praise that progress and praise those next steps, and be celebratory that you've reached the end of the lesson and that you've got all of this lovely writing to share because you're a team of well-established authors. Now, like I've already said, context is key. You can only write about what you know about from the heart. Yes, imagination is crucial along the way, of course it is, but having those shared experiences, using that new exciting vocabulary and celebrating good techniques can all be a vital part of the writing process. Do you know what? It doesn't come easily to some. My daughter, for example, Ruby, she is an absolutely natural mathematician. And over the last couple of years, her GCSE years, writing hasn't been a natural part of her work. But she's taught herself how to create an effective piece of writing using the skills that she's been taught. And when she reads back her many techniques and examples of writing, for example, Macbeth, she's actually really proud of what she's achieved. There you go. You can teach yourself effective skills in order to become an author. That's my opinion anyway. So when inspired and confident, children write from their hearts and they love to use their imaginations and they start to feel proud like Ruby did. Let's build on this and get them writing because they want to be skillful authors. Like with anything, practice really does make perfect. This again goes back to part of my menu, the layout of the lesson, the red bit being me, the green bit being all of us, and the orange bit being times that the children can write. So at the beginning, an introduction, the recap on previous learning, set the lesson up and give them a hook. It might be a video or a photograph or a voice recording of someone or a letter through the post. Then you want that shared goal. So the children ask questions and they contribute to the learning success. Then you teach and you demonstrate and you model and you think aloud, just like we mentioned earlier. And then they get their writing time, the bit they practice in. They might be in support groups, they might have a challenge, or it might be a group on the carpet that's nearly there yet, but they just need a little more scaffold. Then, smack bang in the middle of the lesson, I like to pause them. How are we doing, everyone? I like to call it taking the temperature of the lesson, seeing where the learning's going next. Do I pause them? Have we gone off track? Or are they absolutely fine and they just need some more time to create that writing? Then back to the sustained writing, maybe a focus group or a challenge for the more able, and a bit of scaffold for the ones that are nearly there yet. All the while, you as a professional person are taking the temperature of the lesson and seeing where it goes from here on in. You assess all the time. We do that naturally, of course we do. And at the end, we come back as a group, the green bit. How did we do? We share our successes, we write things on the working wall, we add things to our story boxes, we move the learning on, and we celebrate the whole time. And at the end of the lesson, the children should walk away with pride, feeling a little bit proud that they did a little bit better than yesterday maybe, but that tomorrow there's still a way to go. We never stop learning. And me as an adult, I also ensure that they understand that I am a learner too, especially when it comes to writing. Of course, we have those children that are reluctant. Of course we do. I'm quite a reluctant writer at times as an adult, so they also have their difficulties. So how do we do this? Now, I haven't got the answers, but maybe some suggestions. So some children are good at telling stories orally, but may have difficulty putting their ideas on paper. How do we overcome this? Practice, practice, practice. Opportunities, giving them short bursts of writing so they feel successful, and also being consistent. This is key. Retelling stories that they really, really know inside out makes their writing easier. Yes, they know the story, but retelling it in their own words is a skill in itself. How about those children who are scared or have a fear of getting it wrong and they just sit there with hesitancy? How do we overcome that one? That's about the culture that you invite into the classroom, the environment that you produce, that ethos. If they see you getting things wrong and asking questions, then they won't feel scared themselves. It's really important that we get this balance right. It's okay not to have ideas, especially when it comes to writing. That's why we're in a class together, to bounce ideas off each other and to share those magpie moments when we read other brilliant texts. Let's pinch those ideas and use them in our own writing. How about lack of experiences? Some children just haven't been to the beach or haven't been to a theme park. So we must make sure that they have those experiences inside the classroom. Read those stories, watch those videos, watch snippets of film so they get to understand what it's like in other places in the world. I've never been to Australia, so I probably couldn't tell you a lot about the Sydney Opera House, but I'd use my understanding of research to find out things. And that's what children must do as well. Never assume that they understand what a beach is like or a mountainside. Understand that they need these experiences, even if it is on the video screen. How about some children staying safe and not taking those risks, as this may lead to errors? Again, it comes back to that one just that I mentioned earlier, the ethos and culture that you provide in your environment. If they feel confident to take risks, then they will take risks. And they'll even love that healthy competition of beating you, especially when it comes to finding a new word or something. How about the physical struggle when children have poor fine motor control or pencil control? Now, I've seen this in the last couple of years due to COVID and lockdown, that children need those activities in order to strengthen their fingers. And what better than more practice, more fine motor control activities around the room. This is so important, especially for reception in Year 1 children. Their bones need to fuse together in order that their hands get stronger and their bones fuse together and their pencil grip improves. How about those children that find it difficult to spell? Interventions and support can kick in here and make it a game, make spellings games and things like that around the room. Word searches, different colour pens. I've got some spelling ideas that I'll share with you, but interventions and support is key, and also making spelling fun and not a chore that they do at home on their own in order to get 10 out of 10 on a Friday. Put those spellings into different contexts throughout the day, when you're lining up or even outside. How about those children who don't retain their ideas? We talked about talking tins earlier, didn't we? Well, for them, maybe memory games might work, or those inner monologue things when you act out the questions. This soon becomes embedded in their heads. And don't be afraid to ask for help. And this is what we need to get over to children. If you're stuck, then ask somebody. If we're stuck as adults, we ask for help, don't we? Let's not allow them to sit there and worry about different ideas when it comes to writing. Let's ask our friends and share those successes. How about those children that quickly finish their writing so ideas are rarely developed? The ones that say, oh, I didn't want another word for big. Big was fine for me. Again, it comes back to that ethos and environment, but also those toolkits and those success criteria. Children know when they've done better than yesterday. They feel pride, they really do. So make sure that they reach the stars and praise them along the way. For me, differentiation is key. And I mentioned earlier about those children that if the LO for that lesson is not applicable, then don't make them sit through it. They need to progress at their own rates. And if they need support with finger spaces or capital letters and full stops, then that's where they are, because before they've nailed that, they cannot move on. Children progress at different stages, and that's fine. It's up to us as professionals to make sure that we meet their needs. Here is my differentiation overview. The first circle is meet the needs. And as I've just said, if the LO is not within the child's grasp, if the child needs practice in another field to maintain their progress and momentum, then rethink and create a new LO that is just for them. This is key. Your next group along are nearly there. They can get to the LO with a little bit of structure and support from you or from a writing frame, for example. Your next group along are your focus 4 or your focus group. The children who are absolutely there independently. Don't let those golden opportunities go. Move children around the room and encourage flexible grouping where needed. These children are ready to influence others. They've got the skills and the confidence to move forward at their own rates. Alongside this, you want those embedded and internalized monologues, like we mentioned earlier, to be everywhere. We want to see numbered tips and practical strategies around. Children want to create their own success ladders and provide checklists for other children. Always a challenge and always support too. Children on the journey to their own successful outcome will need to follow a certain path. It's important that we don't run before we can walk. Writing frames, word lists and waggles are really good prompts for all children. And be a flexible teacher when it comes to writing, within reason. Plan for freedom. Don't ever pigeonhole a child into a group. They may surprise you. Sustained writing, that blank page before you, is sometimes quite daunting. Of course it is. You need to be covered in words in order to please others. And so sometimes children struggle and they panic. So the process of writing needs to be as pain-free as possible. If only that was true. But it can be true. And that practice is often said to be perfect. We don't necessarily want perfect. Of course we do. Of course we don't. Is there a perfect author or a perfect piece of writing? Again, that comes back to your opinion and being subjective. But what we do want, however, is a room full of children who want to be authors, who want to write and who want to please themselves. Children who are not afraid to let their minds flow and record their instinctive ideas and brainwaves on the page before them. Editing can come later, and of course it's important. We know that accuracy is key, but that recording the content, the meaty substance, the wonder, the magic, the intrigue, that's the bit that you cannot teach, because that's their imagination, and we need that imagination to come out onto the page. Yes, we can address spag and spellings along the way, of course we can, in workshops or feedback sessions. Always praise the process of writing, because it isn't easy for everyone and it is hard to teach. I know that. Always read more to children every single day, because it's by listening to good examples of superb texts that we grow as authors ourselves. There's nothing wrong with pinching other people's ideas when it comes to writing. I've put boys writing here, but it could be any reluctant writers really. These are a few ideas over the years that I've really loved to teach and that I've got so much from the children. Real instructions are key, especially for those reluctant writers, and especially if you produce the actual activity within the classroom. Children like to write real instructions for real activities. For example, how to make a Lego house, or a paper plane, or a cheese toastie, or a bowl of cereal. Make or watch videos too on YouTube with the sound down and get them to write a transcript for what you can see happening. This links to Oracy too. The children could stand at the front of the class in front of the whiteboard, watch the video with the sound down, and actually use time connectives and time openers and conjunctions to record their ideas. Another super idea is to personify household objects. This is a great favorite of mine. I give out lots of pictures of household objects. For example, a Henry Hoover, a microwave, maybe a blender or a toaster maybe. And then they bring it to life, thinking about the words that they will use. They give it human tendencies and personify it. And they have so much fun. And it's not necessarily a story, although it could turn into one. But this is what a little boy in the last couple of years in my class wrote about a Henry Hoover. At the top of the creaky wooden stairs, the mysterious crimson beast roared its powerful roar as it devoured everything in its gliding path. So much fun. Now, if you really know me, you'll know that I love a good writing frame. There's a time and a place for these. For example, a display or part of a writing area. These are really key and they support children's understanding of where to put things. It's really important that most of them have lines as well, because that's how we write, on lines. But if you're going to ask me where I like to write most, it is in a writing book. And if you look at the writing books of children in my class over the years, and you look at the September page, and then you look at the January page, and then you look at the July page, you can really see the progress. So I do love a writing book and to see the progress over the year. It's one of my favorite things and it gives me goosebumps. Hope you're well. Today I've decided to share a story, not necessarily a story actually, but a book that has great potential. You've probably come across it before. It's the first in the series of a selection of books called Zoom. I know there's two out, the second one has a blue cover, but it's a book with great potential across the curriculum. So each page, okay, there's the first page, each page actually zooms out. So you can see the cockerel there. Again, it zooms out all the way through. No words, so great potential for descriptive writing or a narrative throughout. Something that the whole school could do as well at the beginning of term or end of term. The art possibilities as well, the creative side of things are amazing. And it goes all the way, keep zooming out, all the way to the back. Somebody in a plane, and then all the way to the end when it's the moon. Okay, so great possibilities, like I said, across the curriculum. And I first came across this book during a staff meeting where someone had laminated all the pages and then we all had a section and we had to work out in what order they came. We didn't know the process of the Zoom effect and everything, and it got us talking. We worked it out in the end. It was great for breaking the ice, and it's all, you know, you could do the same sort of thing with a Key Stage 2 class, or even a Key Stage 1 class really. What else you could do is give each child a section of it or a picture from each page, and they could do some descriptive writing. They could take a section of one picture and paint it and describe it. So the endless possibilities for these sorts of books are massive, and it really gets children thinking. Like I said, it's not just for art or literacy. You could have, I don't know, maths focus as well. So it's really good for the start of term, a whole class focus, a whole school focus even across the curriculum, from nursery all the way up to year 6 really. So yeah, Zoom, this is the first in the series. I know there's a second book, but yeah, great potential and great fun. This is another type of scaffold. Now, some people might consider this cheating, maybe if you had this on the table, but for my eyes, my understanding, this is a writing frame. It's a scaffold. It's something that helps children when they are reluctant to give you their own ideas. It's a prompt. It's a help sheet. And for those children who are nearly there, this really does lend a hand. So, for example, the invent a potion sheet, I really want them to start each sentence with a time opener or a time connective. There they are. They're written down. So they know to choose one of those first. After that, I want them to use a verb. And there's some there. Of course, they can use their own as a challenge, but there are some examples. And that's okay. There's also some adjectives there. And at the top, there's some conjunctions too, to add even more detail. Now, what I'm not telling them to do is how to construct that sentence. I'm not telling them to be prescriptive and to start always with this one or that one. That comes down to themselves. And then after a couple of days, you take this away. So they become less reliant on it. I mentioned before about real audiences. And sometimes this can be true because you can send something to the head teacher or your partner teacher, or even they can write to each other in the class. However, having a real audience is brilliant. Sometimes in September, I love to get them to send a letter home to their parents just to say how they've settled in. They really love getting things through the post. You don't often get things through the post now, only Vodafone bills and things like that. So why not post things home? It's really exciting, especially for children who don't often receive things themselves. Also, you could write to Boris Johnson or Her Majesty the Queen, or maybe a Disneyland princess. These people here are meant to reply. I must admit, I've never tried it, but why not have a go? There's also a website called Postally, and you can write to people like famous people like Ed Sheeran and people like that, and they're apparently meant to reply too. Also, you could fill in CVs and things that you're good at, real audiences for maybe a library monitor or something like that, or a real invitation to a governor, inviting them to the nativity play. Make it real. Give writing a real audience whenever you can. Using the room as my stage. I often do this. For one example recently, I put posters like this around the room of places. These places were in a park, and I'll show you the picture of the park later. So I had 6 posters around the room, these being 3 of them, the stream, the daffodils, and the rocks. It was a bit of a workout for me, but I'd run over to the picture of the stream, and the children eventually told me where I was, next to the icy cold stream. And then I'd run over to the daffodils and they'd say, just in front of the golden swaying daffodils. And then I'd run over to the rocks and they'd say, just behind the ragged grey rocks. And they understood where I was in the room. And then we'd carry on our sentence. So for example, over by the icy cold stream, the delicate fish swam through the water, glimmering water, and then eventually they'd add their adjectives. So we had a really good opening or a sentence stem to tell us where, the preposition where, opener, to start our sentence off. We had some really good ideas. Using the room as a prompt doesn't have to be sentence stems. It can just be key prompts that inspire the children and trigger those ideas. I mentioned earlier as well my love of lanyards and children becoming the facilitators at the end of the lesson. Here is how I use them myself. Good morning. Today we're going to have a few minutes to talk about the lanyards that I love to use in the classroom. Now I teach year 1, as you know, and they absolutely love a lanyard. They like to go and collect them, they like wearing them, they like being the teacher, as I'm sure lots of you understand. They always mimic me and pretend to teach phonics and things like that. So across the curriculum, we've got these hanging on the wall. This one's an independent thinking one, but it could be for anything. I don't know, creativity, I understand the objective today, that sort of thing. But they become the expert. It's got on here expert advice, and it's so lovely to see them go around the classroom wearing one of these and explaining their thinking to others. So when they've grasped a concept, for example in maths, I don't know, adding, finding some bonds or something, they'll go around and you can hear that application happen, and it's then that you make your informal assessments and things like that. And it's so lovely to see, and so important that they have the opportunity to explain their thinking to others, not just you or an adult, but to their friends. And they absolutely love it. It was really an incentive for them to wear one of these around their neck. Like I said, it's not just limited to maths and English. It really can be that creative thinker, you know, how we learn those critical skills and stuff. So yeah, make some lanyards. I'll put these on my website, and yeah, see what you think. But Key Stage 2 as well, just yeah, let them be independent thinkers and let that creativity shine. I also love this quote: we learn 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we hear and see, 70% of what we discuss with others, 80% of what we experience ourselves, and 95% of what we teach. That's amazing. Also, on the right, I love these My Dictionaries. They're about 30p, I think, from Primary Resources online. Each child has their own, and it's a really brilliant way of learning tricky word spellings, but also practicing your alphabetical order. In the beginning of the year, I'll write down all those words that children usually get wrong, the ones that they find really tricky: because, there, with, and then over the next few terms, the children will come to me if they need a spelling. Now, if the spelling, for example, was moon, and I think that they should know that, then I tell them to have a go themselves. But if it was, for example, a topic word like bicycle, I'd write it in for them. So slowly they get to build up a repertoire of different words that they might need in their everyday work. More examples of using the room. Creating an environment where children love their learning is priority. Giving them independence is key. Like we said, prompts are good, sentence stems are good, but they can also be on their tables or in boxes. Giving the children the independence to go and get resources that they need is brilliant. Here are some examples too of celebratory walls. If we're ever writing narratives, I always love the children to refer to their 5 senses, and I always use my hand as an action. So, for example, if we're writing a forest description and the children become stuck, I say, pretend you're there and use your 5 senses and point to each one. What can you hear? What can you smell? And that really gets their creative juices flowing. For some children, they love success criteria, and they also like to create their own. Sometimes I really want children to prove to me that they've listened to a skill and that they can use this in a piece of writing themselves independently. So I might ask them for an adverb opener, or add a short sentence to create drama in an eerie piece of writing. Or can they maybe add an action and use a word that really describes how. A similar thing to success criteria are toolkits, and sometimes I even have a little toolkit box with how to write a scene or how to write instructions in them. These are really handy, with lots of writing frames for the children to use in their own time. This is another type of toolkit, and like I said, sometimes a piece of writing requires different things, just like a really good pick and mix selection. So you'd like a little bit of speech maybe, and a few different openers and some short sentences and maybe a couple of longer sentences. You wouldn't want a whole tub full of jelly babies, would you? And that's what I get over to children. The different pieces of writing require different types of sweets. Make it interesting. Make each handful a surprise. So for example, to start a sentence, you might use an adverb opener, a Lee opener. How did they get there? Creepily, the 2 people crept down the squeaky stairs. You might use a time opener. Later that day, after a while, just at that moment, or you might use a where preposition opener. Over by the jagged rocks, next to the golden swaying daffodils, that sort of thing, using actions to help you. A how prompt, a when prompt, and a where prompt. This is that picture I was talking about earlier. Now, this is a picture of the children's local park, which I wanted them to write about to set a scene. However, the picture, although it was beautiful in my eyes, was, from a writer's point of view, quite bland. So I've added these extras and superimposed these things over the top in order that they are prompts for the children's writing. So as you can see, there are the jagged rocks, there are the golden daffodils, and also a cave and a wooden boat. So for example, over by the jagged grey rocks, the two young boys splash in the icy cold water. So it builds up a narrative and it sets a scene. Over by the golden swaying daffodils, I could hear the sound of a tuneful ice cream van driving into the distance. It really gave a context for the children because they've all swam in this stream and walked along this path. So this was the task. Start your sentences in different ways. Some children with an I and a where opener, sentence stem, and some children with a when opener. An I opener, and a where, and a when. Vocabulary for me is so exciting, and children won't use it unless they use it and hear it from you. The foundation of all exciting writing is a broad and rich vocabulary, and I believe that we never stop learning new words. It is vital for children to be exposed to these new words, to be inspired, and to use these phrases at every opportunity. And this only comes to life if vocabulary is real and a real focus for all of us in all lessons. Add new words to a vocabulary wall. Maybe call it a vocabulary vault or a wonderful word wall. Anywhere, as long as they are acknowledged, discussed, and referred to as often as possible. If you introduce new words, children will absolutely use them. And here's a few ideas. Some of my favorites. I love song lyrics, and what I like the children to do when they are really confident is change some of the song lyrics and make a song funny or scary. So listen to, analyze, and edit and amend and change the different lyrics of different songs. Songs are like poetry. Can you change the mood of a song by changing the words? Can you put the words to a different type of music in a music lesson? Experiment and have fun with lyrics across the curriculum. Focus on different themes and musical genres and sing your way to success. Now, I love storybooks, either at the beginning of a unit or the end, something that we create together or something that we use as a stimulus at the beginning of a lesson. So that might contain photos of the genre or a writing frame or two that the children can use, or tricky words that we might need that we can put straight onto our working wall without having that preparation time. Notepad and paper, or sentence stems that we might use that week, or props from the story, or maybe masks for a bit of hot seating or drama. The children can then refer to this or dig inside the box each day, finding something new or a new challenge that is appropriate to that genre and that unit of work. I love a storybox. It's like a working wall, all inside an exciting box. Now, like I said, writing is everywhere, and we need to write in geography and in science as well. This is my human body science unit of work, and it has lots and lots of opportunities for you to write and use this. It's part of the Some more ideas now. Black it out poetry, an oldie but a goodie. So you get, for example, a page of non-fiction writing all about space, and you get rid of the words you don't want and leave the words that are really related to space. And then you've got a poem, a beautiful poem, with hopefully a focus on scientific words and a genre. Photocopy a page from a story or a non-fiction book, black out the bits you don't want to keep and leave the powerful words, and create a poem to be proud of. I love this website too, ifaketextmessage.com. You can focus on dialogue. You can change dialogue into proper speech using inverted commas. You can use this website to generate on-screen text or print out these formats and write them themselves. Children can then have a lovely conversation with each other and discover what people say and how they say it. Handwriting. Never underestimate what children can do when their fingers and their hands are ready. So in reception, they should have all of that time strengthening those fingers, not sat at desks, and having a love of writing in the writing areas, which can be anywhere, by the way. But in year one, as soon as they're ready, then they will fly. Letter formation is important, not precursive, not for long anyway, just them writing, and giving handwriting lessons a real massive kudos and respect, daily if need be. It has a really good impact on spelling as well. It should be discrete teaching, at least 3 times a week where possible. And children should have consolidation time, maybe in the morning, at the end of the day, some quiet time in order to improve their handwriting and get better at it each day. Each day they can compare with the day before. They're proud of themselves when they do well. Have a look at what you can do now attitude and praise the process. Awards for all when we all do well. No licenses, awards for all. A really good example of precursive that we did not for very long. The children had to prove and show themselves that they were brilliant at their handwriting and that their letter formation, and that transition from getting their writing correct and their letter formation correct into precursive for a couple of days and then straight into joining was amazing. And I gave out handwriting awards like sweets every single lesson, every single day, in science, in maths. Handwriting award. Sometimes children would have 5 a day. Having pride in their writing is one of those light bulb and goosebump moments for me. When they've entertained me, I want them to see that I've been entertained. And so I'll share it, and I'll tweet it, and I'll praise it, and I'll write to their parents and ring them. Some more examples here. Look at that. What a transformation. Like I say, give it time, importance, put the music on, dim the lights maybe, put the fairy lights on, give them special sparkly pencils, and praise the process at every opportunity. Just wow. Key texts are so important. Choose texts that inspire you. Choose texts that are inspired by others on Twitter or Facebook. Share ideas, share planning. Hope you're well. Today I've decided to share a story, not necessarily a story actually, but a book that has great potential. You've probably come across it before. It's the first in the series of a selection of books called Zoom. I know there's 2 out, the second one has a blue cover, but it's a book with great potential across the curriculum. So each page, okay, there's the first page, each page actually zooms out. So you can see the cockerel there. Again, it zooms out all the way through. No words, so great potential for descriptive writing or a narrative throughout. Something that the whole school could do as well at the beginning of term or end of term. The art possibilities as well, the creative side of things are amazing. And it goes all the way, keep zooming out, all the way to the back. Somebody in a plane, and then all the way to the end when it's the moon. Okay, so great possibilities, like I said, across the curriculum. And I first came across this book during a staff meeting where someone had laminated all the pages, and then we all had a section and we had to work out in what order they came. We didn't know the process of the Zoom effect and everything, and it got us talking. We worked it out in the end. It was great for breaking the ice, and it's all, you know, you could do the same sort of thing with a Key Stage 2 class, or even a Key Stage 1 class really. What else you could do is give each child a section of it or a picture from each page, and they could do some descriptive writing. They could take a section of one picture and paint it and describe it. So the endless possibilities for these sorts of books are massive, and it really gets children thinking. Like I said, it's not just for art or literacy. You could have, I don't know, maths focus as well. So it's really good for the start of term, a whole class focus, a whole school focus even across the curriculum, from nursery all the way up to year 6 really. So yeah, Zoom, this is the first in the series. I know there's a second book, but yeah, great potential and great fun. Marking and feedback. Like I said at the very beginning of this webinar, not too many, please do it this ways. Lots of praise, and I like this bit. The other bits and the next steps you can do in a whole class focus. It needs to be balanced, a perfect mix between process, product, and praise. If you carry on saying, don't do it this way, do it this way, it may have a detrimental effect on the author. Feedback needs to be carefully constructed. Sentence ends such as, oh, I wonder if, or have you thought about this? Or what happens if you change this word here? All of these questions focus on the positive, and the results are that the author themselves are the ones that make their own changes, just like you would as an adult. Spellings, and yes, and punctuation, yes, can be taught as a whole class workshop or part of a Feedback Friday session. Or sometimes don't feedback anything that they need to change. Ask the children to read through their work and ask them to make one change. Don't dampen spirits, but along the way, we want them to improve and be accurate because that's part of the process. Having pride in what they do is essential. In some schools, I've used pink to think. In some schools, I've used tickled pink. I'm totally confused now, but let me know what you think about marking and feedback and whether you have an absolutely brilliant idea. There's so much controversy when it comes to feedback and marking and policies and things like that. And I'm not saying that I've got the right approach to it at all. But what I do know is that I like praise. Planning, again, opening a can of worms here, because there's no perfect approach, and Ofsted don't even want to see it. Planning's for you, but I do know that lots of schools do it in different formats. My favorite is to use PowerPoint, because then you've got your visuals as well, and these can be built upon each year. And as long as you've got the national curriculum objectives in your head and you know exactly where you're going when it comes to subject knowledge, then you are the professional. So then, in summary, let them write. Celebrate the process and learn together at every opportunity. Let them love learning. Let them be authors. Teach them that there are different purposes and different types of genre for writing, and that an author writes for an audience, always. Use pictures, sound effects, and sensory props and previous experiences as a stimulus for children. Let them express themselves and correct and make it accurate along the way. Pick and mix. Alternate between modelled examples, shared rights, reading real stories, making up your own, watching multimedia, or real examples from life. Make it different. Make it a surprise each week. Pitch it high. In writing, you can, because you know the potential that they have. Quality first teaching at all times. You're the dynamic one at the front of the room. But switch it up sometimes and let them be the one that facilitates. Let them be the one that asks the questions. Make every second count, and progress along the way needs to be highlighted. With writing, getting started is the hardest bit. So immerse them with these ideas. Go out for a walk, collect things to write a story about. Let their writing flow. When it comes to new words, teach words daily. One in the morning, one in the afternoon. Never assume that children know the meanings of words. Use different words daily. Introduce yourself to a new word and share it with the children each day. The process is equally as important and exciting. Stop and celebrate the processes and how much they've progressed along the way. Mag by ideas from different authors, rejoice, and mark some pieces of work together. Yes, we need to be accurate. Of course we do. We've got SATs to get to, remember. Writing is not just, though, for grammar and language rules. It's a creative process. Take risks and allow children to take risks too. And finally, is all about you. You are the one that creates these moments with the children, the one that stands at the front and delivers these ideas and these hooks, the one that creates this culture where children are free to have a go, and the one that creates an ethos that says that learning never ever stops. Thank you so much for watching today. As our vocation, I'll leave you with this thought: for inspiring children to love their learning and awaken their desire to take risks and to discover new interests and passions and always be the best that they can be is what we do this for. What a privilege. And I'll see you soon with another webinar. Until then, take care of yourselves and the children that you teach.